Hey everyone, welcome to today's session. We'll be starting in another 3 4 minutes, so please wait. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We hope you are all doing great and are excited for today's session of SIP Talks. Welcome to the Phoenix session. I am Darshnata.
And I'm Ethan Falero. We'll be your hosts for today's session.
So, before we begin, we'd request everyone to keep themselves muted throughout the session to avoid any disturbances. You can put your questions in the chat box or you may raise your hand during Q&A sessions.
Today, we have an amazing lineup of speakers who are interning at incredible companies. They'll be sharing their experiences, insights, and learnings from their journey.
We encourage everyone to stay engaged and make the most out of this opportunity. So, without any further delay, let's get started.
So, our first speaker for today is Ujit Katua, who's a digital intern from Texas Instruments.
We are looking forward to hearing about his journey, experiences, and advice for students aspiring to enter the industry.
So, let's welcome him to the session. Over to you, Ujit.
Thanks, Ethan. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm gonna share my screen. Yeah, I hope this is visible. Um, all right. So, yeah, as he said, I'm a digital intern at Texas Instruments. We actually just started this week. Um, and yeah, I guess I'm gonna try to give you some advice about if you want to get internships. So, firstly, about things that it makes sense to prepare. So, a few topics that, at least for Texas Instruments, were asked a lot in their OAs. Usually, these topics came from DD, from programming, including Verilog and C, and from UP. Um, so, for preparing these things, when it comes to DD, uh, class notes are, I think, generally good. But if you don't have those, or if you want another source, Morris Mano is a pretty good textbook. Digital logic and FSMs, it's basically more the basic concepts. Like in the classes, you'd probably have done more complex things like asynchronous kind of circuits. Um, but yeah, it's they're gonna stick to the basics. Um, Yeah, Verilog is an important thing. These sites, HDL bits, chip verify, they are good, like to practice it. There's also good learning resources online, um, and there's you can also refer to reference guides. I've linked one at the end of this presentation. Yeah, MUP again. I think class notes are probably good enough. Um, C programming to the level that's done in the first year course, CP is fine. Some other courses do sometimes come up in OAs, but they usually don't matter so much. I think SAS had some questions, maybe ES had some, but yeah, I would not really focus on these as much. Um, there are some things that you haven't had courses for so far. So computer architecture is one of those things. Um, so yeah, I would recommend going through a few basic concepts. So Patterson Hennessy is a textbook. There's actually two textbooks, but like the more basic one is called Organization and Design. Uh, I think that works. Like you wouldn't need to go through the whole thing, just like maybe the first chapter and whatever it says about caches and memory. Yeah, there's also online resources. Again, most of these things have good online resources. Yeah, I've mentioned some of those here. One more thing is, since you guys haven't done ADVD yet, STA is a pretty important concept from ADVD. Uh, this website, VLSI Expert, it's pretty good. You can again find resources on YouTube. One more thing is, I don't know if DD covered this already, but in case I didn't, you should find out, like, you should be able to make CMOS circuits for digital logic. Yeah, okay. Online assessments, most of the syllabus is like, as I mentioned. There's also an aptitude section in these OAs, at least for Texas Instruments. I think most of the ones I did had these. Yeah, they're usually kind of repetitive, especially if you've seen PYQs. Um, yeah, if you can practice these in advance, that'll probably help you because you'll be able to go faster. Yeah, again, there's a lot of resources apart from online. The drive that we have is also pretty good. A lot of people over the years have shared content. I think PU, maybe they've already shared with you some resources. But even apart from that, they have some files that they've uploaded, like PYQs from companies or documents linked to such things. I've linked some of those in the presentation as well. Okay, resumes. I think the way most of these companies work is that the OAS and the resumes are considered together. Uh, but yeah, so whatever you put down on your resume, it should be something that you know well. Um, there is, like, obviously there is a chance that anything you put down could be asked. Uh, you of course shouldn't be making up things. Everything you put down, it should be something that you can justify. I would suggest that you check your spellings, your grammar, things like that, and also format things properly. Superset, I think, has some issues where it, like, for example, tries to split words uh, on different lines, and like things like spacing, it doesn't do very well. So I would recommend, I mean, don't spend too much time on this, but just if you can make things better, do it. Um, One important thing is that it should be easy to read. I think typically when people read resumes, they like don't they prefer, of course, to not spend so much time doing it. So if you can make it easy for them to parse, that would be better. So that means you can bold things. You should be structuring things as lists. If you have metrics that you can use, that's better. Yeah, you'd probably be able to find information about resumes online as well. So yeah, if you are wondering what you can add to your resume, I think like this is a bit self-explanatory, but yeah, like tools and languages are a good thing to add. Things like Virtuoso. Yeah, you can add past experience. Projects are obviously good to add, especially if they are linked to the role. I think I'll talk more about projects later. Yeah, other things are also here. I think you should be asking friends or seniors for feedback about your resumes, uh, like just to get an idea of things, of changes that you should make. I found that helpful. You might also need to update it, like if you are starting new roles or something like that. And of course, because they will be asking you things that you put on your resume, you should be making sure you know what you have put on it before the interview. I think you should probably like try to predict what kind of questions they could ask from your resume. Projects, again, as I said, um, yeah, you can add your SOP or any other club projects or such things. What projects are really useful for is that if you're in an interview, instead of having it focus on the questions that they have brought, you can shift the focus to something that you're comfortable with. So that's good. Of course, it's better to have projects that are in digital electronics, but if you have some, like, all of us, I think, don't have that much experience at this stage of our careers. So I would say if you don't have anything to put, then any project works. Um, your interviewer could, like, there's a big range of what your interviewer like expertise in the field of your project could be. So it's possible that they have zero experience, and then you'll have to explain it as if they are a layperson. But they could also be someone who's like who knows a lot about it. In which case, they might ask you tough questions. For example, if you um, if you've listed a communication protocol over there. They might ask you about how it works, or why you chose it over something else, things like that. If your PS1 is in electronics, that's going to be useful. It'll make your resume and interview probably better. Um, yeah, you can also use course projects, but I mean, I would personally not suggest doing this, but yeah, you can, um, as long as it's not something that's, very basic. Um, Interviews, yeah, again, you should, if you can practice, of course, it's better. So if you can get seniors or some friends who've already maybe been through an interview, or even your parents or someone to conduct a mock interview, I think that would be useful. Like, just give them your resume and like tell them to ask you questions. um, the like interviews are not really predictable. So when we were all giving our interviews, people who got different panels did have very different experiences. um, so like my interview, we ended up focusing on my projects, but other interviews I know focused, some of them focused on just like answering questions that the interviewer brought. So there is a big range. It's not a one size fits all kind of thing. But generally, what they want to do is they want to make sure that you have the basic knowledge, and that you can intuitively, that you intuitively understand things. Um, I Yeah, there are a few things that I think are good advice for interviews. If you don't know something or you haven't done a course yet, you should tell them. Um, One more thing about interviews that's, I think, very important is that you should be constantly talking. I don't mean like blabbering, but you should be like explaining your thought process continuously. Otherwise, you're gonna just have, it's gonna be kind of awkward because you'll have long silences. And yeah, by explaining your approach, you also have the advantage that interviewers will sometimes be able to guide you in the correct direction. So that's useful. Yeah, sometimes the interviewers might use terms that you're not familiar with, or you might not understand the way they phrase something. So if you can get them to clarify it, or maybe repeat the question back to them to confirm, I think that's good. As I said, you should review your resume. You should also have an introduction ready, I think, like for the start of the interview. One more thing is, if there is something you are curious about, like interviews aren't a one way kind of thing. Uh, it should ideally be, that you are adding value to the company as well. Maybe not immediately, but potentially in the long term. So if you you should feel free to ask some questions as well. It also makes it look like you're more interested. But don't just like ask for the sake of it. If there is something that you want to know about, maybe about the role, or about what kind of projects you will be doing, things like that, uh, you could do that. Yeah, I've added some resources here. I guess that this will probably be shared with you. So a lot of these are just whatever PU shared, or other things that I've found on Drive. Um, if you search on Drive, as I said, you'll be able to find some pretty good resources. Um, there's also this a reference guide for Verilog that I had mentioned in one of the earlier slides. I found this one useful. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That, like, whatever I wanted to say. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you, Ujit, for sharing your valuable insights and experience with all of us. That was truly informative.
If you have any questions for Ujit, feel free to put them in the chat. And what we'll do is we'll cover it at the end of the three speakers. So, moving on to our next speaker, we have Aryan Goyal, who's a hardware intern from Google.
So hello guys, I'm Aryan and I'm also a digital intern. So I think Ojit already covered a lot of things, but I'll try to share my experience with you guys. So just a second. Is my screen visible? Hello.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's visible. Yes.
Yeah, good. So digital design is the very most basic course and most important course for digital domain SIP. You will have to prepare all concepts of the course from A to Z. I would say Morris Menu is your god in that sense. Other MUPI memory management concepts are important, and some other interfacing concepts might be important from an OA point of view. Electrical sciences, as Urjit also covered, RLC circuits might be asked both in interviews and OAs. And computer programming is something I would say is quite important, because for our batch, that's where a lot of people face issues. Because at least for Google, the second round majorly consisted of CP questions, and they were tricky questions. Like one of my friends got file IO questions, and we had not revised that stuff in 2 years. So maybe just go through computer programming and the style of programming once. And Compark also not too depth you in knowledge is required, but basic understanding of some concepts like pipelining in MUPI and hazard installs would be good. While I said that these are the important courses, it still goes that some courses like ED, MUI, and SAS, these also carry a significant weightage, because firstly, from an OA point of view, these questions can come. I remember that there were quite some questions from MUI gain, some gain related formulas like gain or noise margin questions, or some CMOS theoretical questions about manufacturing were also came from electronic design. So just go through some basic revision of these courses also, as well, if you are not confident in them. And SAS concepts like Laplace and sampling are good for our general understanding, and they can help you solve some other questions. For example, they can give you a second approach when trying to solve digital domain questions, both in interviews and in interviews, OS. So these are the courses, and I have attached some resources from each topic. So digital design, you can obviously read Morris Mano, great book, read it twice for the interview if you are selected. Digital design, there's an ISO Academy Plus, which is also pretty good for understanding of the topics. And Verilog, you can again basic Verilog you can see from Morris Mano. And if you
Just a
want to
second.
go,
Just a second.
yeah, what's the issue?
Your slides are not moving.
Oh, just a second. My slides are not visible. Yeah.
No, like they are not moving.
Oh,
Are you moving them?
oh yeah, I was. I guess they went. I'll screen share again. Just a second.
Right.
Uh, okay. So now are they visible? Just a second.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Now are the slides moving?
Yes,
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 all
they are.
good.
Yeah. So again, I'll go over the first two slides again in a quick view. Important courses, as Urjit also mentioned: digital design, MUPI, electrical sciences, CP, and Compark. Compark you can leave till the end. First, focus on the previous courses and first build all your fundamentals. And then, if you have time remaining, you can go through some Compark basics. And I think, yeah. And ED, MUI, SAS also, they are all depend in your interview. They may ask you analog questions also, because I feel in some of my friends gave me a review कि उनके थोड़े interviews में they asked analog questions even though there was a digital role. So don't go कि तुम्हारा digital role है so you don't need to do analog at all. At least be familiar with the basic concepts of each domain. So yeah, and now coming to the resources as I was there. So digital design, you have the Morris Mano book and the NISO Academy playlist. I've attached the link. And Verilog, again, basics Verilog you can do from Morris Mano. But if you are interested in diving into in-depth Verilog, there is a Samir Palnetkar Verilog HTL book. It's very good for it. And for you can practice Verilog on HTL bits. I think most of you might be familiar with HTL bits by now in your digital design course. But other than that, I think you guys are familiar with Model Sim also. I think you have done coursework on it. So Model Sim is also a simulator on which you can simulate your circuits and get an idea of how much your Verilog code is working or not. And if you want to try something new, Xilinx Vivado is the industry grade software that everyone uses. You will have bits license to install it. So if you try to install it, you can actually get the RTL designs and the proper block diagrams of the circuits you design also. So sometimes that helps your understanding. So if you want to try, you can try Vivado also. And static timing analysis is quite an important topic. So try to revise that from either this playlist or the VLS experts website. I think Urjit also mentioned the same website only. This website is great. I think it covers a very elementary point of view and builds towards some interesting questions also. So go through it, the site, I would say at least once. And computer architecture, there is a Georgia Tech playlist which is very good for this course, but I think the playlist is quite vast. I think it has 4 to 6 parts, but part one should cover enough basics that might be asked to you in interviews. So that should cover the understanding. And the other courses and subjects I mentioned, the college slides and understanding that you might have from them, those should be enough. So yeah. Next, about interviews. So in interviews, don't just keep blabbering on in the attempt to answer more questions because you think more questions answered would be good. Think properly and properly answer each question. I would genuinely say 3 properly thought out answers are better than 7 just small anything answers you said just to move on to the next question. But don't just say कि you are thinking और इस process में तुम कुछ बोल नहीं रहे हो. Keep speaking out loud what your thinking process is and lead your interviewer through what you are thinking. If you are designing a circuit, what are your assumptions about the circuit? List down your assumptions because sometimes what they are expecting you from might be different. I had a question which was pretty confusing and both of us were working under different assumptions. So yeah, list down your assumptions and tell them that these are the assumptions I'm designing the circuit for. If they have some corrections to make, they'll make the correction. And yeah, if you are stuck on a topic, you can just try to lead them into some other topic and tell them, sir, that you are not confident in that topic or you have not worked on that topic in the past. Yeah. So for me, I think I'll come back on my project on this thing. Okay. So yeah, project. So a related project will be very helpful if you have. And what projects you can list down, as Urjit also covered, your SOP projects, PS1 work, any relevant personal or club projects you may have. Now, what I mean by related project is a very luck-based thing, to be fair, because everyone works in a different domain. You don't know what domain your interviewer might be working in. But generally, digital or some hardware-related project might be related to their field, and they might ask you a lot of questions if the work you have already done is similar to what they're expecting. So I'll give my example with this. I'll lead with an example. So for me, my SOP project was very helpful because I feel my interviewer was quite interested in it. In my second round of interview, I think around 15 to 20 minutes, he asked questions related to my SOP project only. And the rest of the interview was C programming questions. So yeah, a related project is helpful, but don't put any random project you don't know anything about because they will ask in-depth questions, of course. And now coming back to my previous point about telling them if you are not comfortable in something, in my project only, he was going into very detailed concepts of computer architecture. So I just told him, sir, that in our campus, we have not done this course by the second year end. We'll be doing this course later on. So we can move on to a different topic if you're comfortable. Just tell them, they'll understand and move to a different topic. So CGPA is only important for the OA criteria, to be fair, because after OAs are sorted, then they just, because you only need to be able to sit for the OA and then they'll sort you based on your OA marks and your resume. So yeah, and if you feel that you have a low CGPA, don't be disheartened. Just try to gain enough understanding of your concepts and your projects to be able to overcome that barrier if you feel there is. So yeah, thanks for attending my talk and best of luck in your preparations.
Thank you, Ajit, thank you, Aryan, for such an insightful and engaging session. We truly appreciate you taking out the time to be here with us today.
So we've heard from two people from the digital side. Well, up next, we move to the analog side of things. We have our third speaker for the Phoenix section. We have Josh George, who's an analog intern at Texas Instruments.
We are grateful to have him here today and we are excited to hear his thoughts and experiences.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is it on the PPT? Right.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, we can see them. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So before I begin, I'd like to talk about my experience in AI. So basically, I got posted in this section called ASC LAMP HeadSAMP, uh, which basically means there are many subgroups in TI, and one of the subgroups is called analog signal chain, and my group is called high speed amplifiers. The roles in industry, at least in my group, is basically of two kinds. One is called pre-silicon, and the other is post-silicon. So pre-silicon is basically what you'd be used to. It's basically like designing the individual ICs like we did in UE. Not exactly that, but something like that. So you'd be given some design specifications and you'd be having to optimize that kind of IC. And then there's post silicon, which basically is whatever that happens after the chip is fabricated. So yeah, so basically you'd be making PCBs or like specific kind of circuits for some applications, and then you'd have to rigorously validate and test it. My role is basically in the post silicon side. I have to make a specific kind of circuit, and I have to test and validate it. But yeah, there are both of these kind of roles, and it's kind of random which kind of role you'd be assigned in. Okay, regarding what to study, the first most foundational and important course is electrical sciences. If I recall correctly, I think more than 70% of the questions came from here. It's like very important you have a very good understanding of what happens in this course. Beyond what we learned in 1-2, I think you need to have a good idea of RLC transients. I don't remember exactly if this was done in 1-2, but basically you need to have a very good understanding of RLC transients, network analysis, and diode circuits. Rectifiers and clippers are very commonly asked here. Yeah, so because of how common this is, it's very crucial that you have good practice here, especially for the OA, because like a lot of questions come from here. One very commonly used resource is this, which I linked here. It's basically a lecture from Champion sir. I think he used to be a prof in Pilani. This is basically telling you how to intuitively understand circuits. I think there are more than 60 lectures in this, but I just did the first half of it, which is basically RC circuits. And yeah, you can build upon it. I personally don't like watching lectures a lot, but you can build upon it. If you like lectures, I would suggest going through all of it. But if you have a good idea of the basics, I think you can build upon it using some textbook. For ES, the textbook I used was Van Valkenburg, if I recall correctly. But you can just use the ES textbook too. Anything works. Another important course is analog electronics. You are expected to know the basics of op-amp circuits, basic topologies like inverting and non-inverting circuits, and how you analyze it, especially virtual shorts. I know we haven't done it, but you could pretty much do it if you do AS properly. The first quarter in the course we do in 3-2 matches this. Otherwise, like there's like a lot of lectures all in YouTube, or like any good textbook would be good enough. Cedra Smith, I think, has a chapter on op-amps. Right. Another very important course is microelectronic circuits. If I remember correctly, we didn't have a lot of questions from MUE and the OA, but yeah, in the interview, it's very commonly asked, apparently. It's very important that you have a very deep understanding of MUE, the different kind of amplifier topologies, the frequency response, feedback, and op-amp circuits. This has to be done in a very thorough manner. If you have time, I would suggest looking at the beginning of ADVD to the analog part. Regarding ED, most of the stuff they ask in ED, they don't ask this in OS, at least for our batch. But I would suggest getting a very good grasp on PN junctions and MOSFETs and BJTs if you have time. They do ask this in interviews. A lot of my friends were asked questions from ED. SAS and cons is, it's not as important as the other subjects, but you are expected to know the basics. SAS was asked in the OA, and even in my interview, they asked something from SAS. But yeah, just the basics would be fine. You just need to know how to analyze just like from the basics. Okay. Most of the companies, they come in first month. I think TI came towards the end of August. So basically, the recruiting process for us was like there was an OA, and from the OA, people were selected for the interview. We just had one interview, and we didn't have a HR interview. Uh, the OA has three sections: analog, digital, embedded, and a quantitative aptitude. Quantitative aptitude is pretty simple, but I would suggest that you guys get practice of it because I don't think you get a lot of time for it, if I remember correctly. Regarding CGPA, the only place where it actually matters is getting selected for the OA. I think the cutoff for TI was something like 7 or something. I mean, worst case CGPA would be like the interview would have some preconceived notion about you, but that's about it. You could always like offset it with your understanding or how interested you are in the role. Projects are also a very important part of the interview process. You are not expected to have a lot of projects. I think 3 would be more than enough. Even if you have 1, it's fine, but you should be very careful that you do not lie about your projects or anything else in general, since you would inevitably be asked about them. In the beginning, for me, they didn't ask a lot of my projects. They didn't even drill me on it. I think it was just for 5 minutes or something. But some of my friends, they did go a lot in depth about their projects. If you don't have a project, you can always do some project by yourself at home. Like regarding analog, I think you can just use LT Spice and design some circuit. You'll probably get some Spice model in the internet for MOSFETs. So yeah. Again, in the interview, you should be careful that you don't be quiet and you always think out loud, and make sure you just don't think out rubbish, and you should have educated guesses. And even if your answers aren't clear, you will signal that you have a very good understanding of the basics. There's a YouTuber, I think, called Himanshu Agarwal, and he does a lot of videos on this. But beyond that, I would suggest when you watch videos, you don't just look at the solutions. You try to understand what's happening and solve it before you look at the solutions, because it's not always that you would get the same question, but you should have an understanding and like a method to solve questions. I think the placement drive also has a lot of commonly asked questions. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you so much, Josh. And thank you to all our 3 speakers for the day. I think you all covered everything pretty comprehensively. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to a Q&A session, and this is open for all the 3 speakers. So if you'd like to pose a question to any of them, the participants are free to raise their hands. There's some questions on the chat as well, but y'all can ask it directly if you'll raise your hands. Yes, Manan, go ahead.
In the PU test for ETSIP, there were a lot of questions about networking, like TCP IP, and like their minimum time or something like that. What topic, like which course or topic are they from, and are there any resources for that? Oh.
Yeah, any one of you can take it. Ujit.
Can you repeat that?
In
Like,
the
what was the topic exactly?
Wait, just give me a minute. There were a lot of questions about networking, like specifically TCP IP. On TCP, there were a lot of questions. Can you tell me what, like they asked bandwidth, RTT, there was something, transfer rates, propagation rates, things like that. In the PU test, any idea where they are from, like which course or topic?
I think the closest one will probably be communication networks. But in all the OAs that I gave, I don't really remember seeing so many questions from this. I don't know, maybe anyone else here knows.
Also about threading, there were a lot of questions. Uh, Multi-threading and paging, like page frames and things like that. That is all computer architecture, if I'm assuming.
Uh,
Yeah, that
so
is.
yeah, so I'll answer. So threading and paging, these concepts come under operating systems course. If you have time after the rest of your preparation, maybe you can cover some concepts of it. But again, focus on the fundamentals rather than these extra one or two exceptional questions. But yeah, if you have time, you can go through the basics of some of these threads, memory management, paging. These come under operating systems course.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Any other questions? You can raise your hands. Okay. So what I'll do is there are a lot of questions in the chat. I'll just cover that instead. So could one of you all just explain again the timeline exactly for the SOP for single lights and dual lights? Because there were a couple of questions on that. Yeah, one of you all can take it. Josh?
I'm not exactly sure on how it is for dualites, but for synglites, what happens is this happens in 3/1 first month. I think it was August, like 18, that week when TI came. And what they do is like they tell you when the OA is, and after the OA, the results come in like a day or two. And after the results come, you get like 1 or 2 days, and after which is when the interview happens. Yeah. One thing I forgot to tell you: if you are serious about SIPs, I would suggest preparing for the interview beforehand, because you don't get a lot of time for preparing for interviews. It's just 2 days for us, right? So after the interview, the results come in. For us, I think it came in that night. Yeah, that's how it works for us.
All right. And Advai Malik had a question. If I have an SOP in 3.1, should I put that in my resume considering I have not finished the project yet?
I would put it because you can always add the dates. The resume allows you to do that. And so based on the dates, they wouldn't really expect you to know much, but you should still be able to explain the concepts. Like that's what I would say. Um,
All right. And could you all just take us through how did you all decide between the analog and digital side? Was it a personal preference or any courses you all enjoyed? How did you all make that decision? Yeah,
So
Ujit, you
if
can.
I
Yeah.
have to answer, so for me, I always like digital and MUPI courses. So digital domain, there is the interest, and there was a very plus minus thing. Ki digital mere courses, I was having fun and I got good grades and I was good in them. And analog were very on the very opposite end of the spectrum. I wasn't really enjoying them. It was much too theoretical for my taste, and so yeah, that was my deciding factor. Just see which courses are interesting to you, but still try to learn for all domains once. Maybe after you give a domain a shot, you may like it. So yeah.
Okay. In the chat, Avishkar had a question. So, what was the CG criteria for OA of Google hardware?
Honestly, it's been way too long for me to remember. I remember that most of the OA criteria were 8 or 8.2. I think Google OA was also around 8 only. I'm not again sure about the exact thing. It was way too long.
Okay, okay. And what about Texas?
I think it was 7.
All right, all right. Next question is from Vihan. Is it necessary to have a project in digital or analog for SIP? Yeah, Ujit, you can take it.
Um, yeah, I would. I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessary. It definitely helps. Like my main project was my SOP, and that was in devices. So um, obviously it's linked, but not really in this. Um, yeah, I mean it helps, but I don't think you should be discouraged if you don't have it. And of course, you can also start projects like um, I think one project that a lot of people did try, and some people who got SIPs had, was like a processor kind of thing they did over the summer. So it's good because you can scale it up as needed. Like the basic thing can be kind of simple, but yeah, it also helps you practice Verilog. So that's one thing you could maybe do. You could start some projects.
Okay. And Aryan, Josh, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think we covered, yeah.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, projects definitely help, but I don't think you should be discouraged if you don't have. And you can just do projects over the summer. It's just, I think you'd have 2 more months from now, right? 2.5 months.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so next question we have Rohan in the chat. Is it true that embedded roles require DSA and DBMS knowledge? Any of you are able to answer that one? It's on embedded roles.
Well, none of us have embedded, but I mean, based on some things our seniors told us in similar, SIP talks kind of things, my understanding is that it isn't so like it isn't that close to IT. I don't think it goes that deep into DSA, and I never heard DBMS mentioned by them. But yeah, you'd have to check with someone else.
Okay, okay, thanks. Next, we have some more questions in the chat from Yaduvir. What's the number of roles we can apply for in a particular company? Is it limited as such, or can you apply for multiple?
In DI think you can apply for two. I applied for analog and digital. So you just write analog and digital and quantitative aptitude.
Okay. And for Google?
Google only came in overall Google hardware and Google software otherwise. So there was not a distinction between roles. But mostly Google works in digital/embedded roles only. Analog, I don't think there is work. As far as my knowledge goes. Maybe there might be some other work, but yeah. For our batch, everyone is working digital currently.
All right. Next, we have Agrim. Uh, do the resumes get locked for certain companies? Did you guys experience that?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Can you please explain once in the chat, or maybe if you could speak? Yeah, as far as my knowledge goes, you can change your resume after for each company or round, because I feel my friends were changing their resumes as they did projects or the CGP after the project came. So yeah, I think you can change.
Yeah, but adding to that, while you can change between the rounds, I think like sometime before the process starts for any company, like they make you get your resume verified. So there's some whole process for that. So for a single company, you might not be able to change it.
Yeah, for a single company, it would probably lock, but between different companies where you're applying, you could probably change it. But there is a verification process on Superset. You will have to see how the process goes with the PU at the time.
Okay. We have one more from Akash. What is the selection ratio and how many people were selected in total for electronic roles? Okay.
So for Google, I think around 9 or 12 people were shortlisted for round two. For the after the OA round, around 9 to 12 or maybe 14, around 9 to 12 people were shortlisted, and after that we were selected around 4 people in hardware. For software also for Google, I know ki for Google software there were 4 people and 1 person from off campus. So yeah. Anyone for TI?
I don't remember exactly, but Analog I think had like 20 something and 18, 20 something, and finally for Analog, 3 people are selected from them. I don't know about digital and product management and stuff. Yeah, and interviews. Oh yeah, that's interview. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Soumya has another question in the chat. Do communication projects have any importance in any of the roles that you guys have landed?
I don't think any 2 year CDC of communication had some project, but again, we covered this earlier, I guess, because all projects are good because they shows the work you have done, but a related project in the digital or whichever field you are applying for might be more relevant. But if you have good understanding of the project, sure, put it on the resume.
Okay. One more question. This is for all three of you, and I think you all touched upon it in your presentation as well. Uh, with regards to the projects you all did, what kind of questions and how did they grill you all in the interview based on the projects you all worked on? What kind of questions did they ask?
So, okay, I think I'll start. So for me, they covered mostly the interview was interested in my SOP project. So firstly, they led by giving me the chance to let me explain my own project. So I did that. And after that, they were interested in how the thing was working and what was my role in it. So I explained that I was working on a simulator of sorts in for a network on chip. So I was working on a simulator for it. And then he was just kept diving into some in-depth questions about how the thing was working. Here is where I was a little bit failing because again, he was going into buffers and some depths of some concepts of Compar, which I explained to him, sir, that I've not worked on this side of the project yet. I was only working on the simulation part yet, and I'll be working on it in the future. So I'm not able to answer that part currently. So yeah, even if you have only worked in 2.2 or are just starting the project in 3.1, you can lead them by saying that you have just started the work or you are learning in the learning phase right now. They don't expect that you will be a very good master of your project because they also know you're a second year and have just started the thing, but still be well versed with it to be able to explain it. So yeah, over to Urjit or Josh.
Yeah, I guess I'll go. So as I said, my SOP project was in devices. So I think that was the first thing we started with in the interview. Um, like so I ended up I think the interviewer asked about it, and I probably spent some time explaining like why we are doing that project, like what value it adds, and my role in it. But I don't think there was like we must have spent maybe 5 minutes on it, maybe more. But this wasn't, of course, like the interviewer's main domain. So I don't think he could really ask follow-ups or anything like that. But then after that, we moved to my PS1, which was like it's kind of linked to Verilog. It was linked to Verilog. So for that, he first made me like explain what the project was, and yeah, like the whole structure of the architecture we were designing for that. Basically, we were like making some module that could do some division, like the mathematical operation. So like he asked to explain that, and from there he was able to kind of move towards some Verilog questions, if I remember correctly. So so that was, he was able to ask more and became more of a like that's where he kind of started. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess
So
Josh.
yeah. For me, I had two projects on my resume. One was the uh, circuit simulation thing I did. I think it was a diff amp or something. I don't remember exactly. Another thing was, yeah, the same devices thing. For me, he didn't spend a lot of time on my projects. In fact, the introduction and the projects was like less than 10 minutes. And then he started asking me questions from my project. I mean, not from my projects, but on the same concepts which were common with my projects. But that's not exactly like asking me questions on the project. So yeah, that's how it was for me.
Okay. Any other general advice that the three of you all had for us that you all missed in the presentation or that a question wasn't posed? Okay, I think that's the end of the questions. So thank you everyone for your questions and participation, and really appreciate Josh, Aryan, and Ujit for answering them very convincingly. We'd like to thank all of our speakers for joining us today and sharing their experiences and insights. Also, thank you to the audience for the enthusiastic and good number of questions. We hope you enjoyed the Phoenix segment, but we're not done for the day. Stay tuned because next we have the consulting segment of CTE's SIP Talks, and we'll have Parva coming and taking over.
Yes, thank you, Ethan. So, hi guys, I'm Parva and I'll be hosting the consulting segment of the SIP Talks. So, basically, in the consulting track of the SIP Talks, we'll be focusing on the internship journeys in consulting, business strategy, analytics, and the related domains. Today's session will feature our speakers sharing their internship experiences, prep strategies, and key lessons from the recruitment journeys. Following the presentation, we'll have an interactive Q&A session where you will have the opportunity to ask any questions you may have. And in this session, you'll hear practical insights from accomplished seniors who have successfully secured consulting internships. And they've built really strong profiles through case comps, leadership experiences, and strategic problem solving. So just for a sec, give me 5 minutes. The speakers are joining, and they'll have the slides prepared and screen shared in 5 minutes or so. people are still joining, so I think we'll start by 7:05. We'll give them another 2 minutes and then we'll start the talk. Right. So we'll start. So good evening, everyone. I'm Parva from CTE, and I'd like to welcome you all to SIP Talks. This is the consulting track of SIP Talks, where we focus on internship journeys in consulting, business strategies, analytics, and the related domains. Today's sessions will feature our speakers sharing their internship experiences, preparation strategies, and key lessons from their recruitment journeys. Following the presentation, we'll have an interactive Q&A session where you'll have the opportunity to ask any questions you may have. In this session, you'll hear practical insights from accomplished seniors who have successfully secured consulting internships and built strong profiles through case comps, leadership experiences, and strategic problem solving. Today, we have Gaurangi and Palak with us. Both of them successfully secured consulting internships and have valuable experiences to share about case interview preparation, resume building, networking, etc. They'll be taking us through their internship journeys, preparation strategies, challenges they may have faced, and the key takeaways that help them succeed. So, without further ado, I'll hand over the stage to Gaurangi and Palak. So, yeah, take it away, guys.
Hi everyone. So I'm Palak, and yeah, Gaurangi is just going to present the slides.
Hi. Maybe just like a forward, we just joined our internship, so we really have some crazy internship experience to give. We're still figuring it out.
But yeah,
I will share. You guys can see my screen, right?
yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so as he introduces, so I'm Palak and that's Gaurangi. And we thought we'll go through the consulting presentation together since I don't think the experience varies a lot. And yeah, we both are interns at BCG. It's only been 1 week so far, but let's see. So let's walk you through the presentation.
Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to put this as like a forward. This is sort of a fact check before you guys make up your mind, especially if there are any like firsties in this call. If you like make up your mind about consulting. So this is something which I had texted one of the senior consultants in BCG back when I was in my first year, first sem. And this is what she had replied to me. She was like, I get what you're going through. It's very easy to fall for the prestige trap for like big names such as BCG, McKinsey, Bain. But honestly, if you're still figuring it out and if you still haven't, done a lot of projects in this domain and decided this is for you, I think before doing anything else, you should definitely challenge yourself, definitely do a bit more of what you love and what actually makes you happy rather than just, a brand name on your resume. But yeah, okay, we'll go ahead.
Yeah, so we both are interns at BCG, and during our internship cycle, this was the only consulting firm that came. So BCG's hiring process has 2 rounds. Your first round is the resume shortlisting. BCG is usually the first company to show up, and for us that was on 8th July. So just keep the timeline in mind. And our interview shortlists, they were announced by 18th July. So from Goa campus, only 5 resumes were shortlisted. So which means this is most likely this is the highly like the most selective round between the 2 rounds. And I believe from Pilani campus also 11 resumes were shortlisted. And then we had round two. So we were given 3 weeks approximately to prepare for round two. And these were just basically your case interviews. And yeah, as I said, it was on 8th August. And we'll walk you through how to prepare for these case interviews. But what BCG does is for shortlisted candidates, they assign you a buddy, basically an employee who's working at BCG currently, who will be there to at least help you understand the case interview process. Because, and as I quote them from their pre-placement talk, they said that we know you're undergrad students and we know you don't have experience in consulting or this domain. So you have 3 weeks to prepare for this. So yeah, this was the hiring process for BCG.
Okay, so how exactly do they do the resume shortlist? One major factor also is that, you know, it is a mix of everything. There's no, you need to have these many internships, this much CGPA, this many projects, which makes you get the cut. We will be talking about our profiles in the few of the further slides, so maybe you'll get the stark difference. But these are some important things. And if you've seen any of the slides which Devansh had last year, one important factor which you'll also hear in a lot of YouTube videos is a spike. A spike is anything in your resume which exceptionally stands out. So one myth which I personally had was that you had to be a national level sports person, or you had to do something completely extraordinary to get through. That's not always the case, although it's amazing if you have anything of that level. But yes, your CGPA internships, your any PORs you have, any sort of competitions you're winning, any sort of projects that you have, not only in say the consulting, finance or business domain, but especially also of your degree, because that in the end shows how good you are at what you're currently been assigned, right? Because right now your degree is your most important thing, which defines whether you're dedicated enough. So that is one of the biggest factors, I think. One of projects in your own domain, even if you're not like in a finance or business minor or domain. And also just random wins. So this could be from, say, like opening up random stalls, or some volunteering experiences, or some sort of publications that you've had, or any sort of different things that you've done which makes your resume memorable and does not have just the same I have won XYZ case competitions sort of ring to it. But we'll go ahead and we'll talk about our portfolios. So maybe Palak, you want to go first?
Yeah, so like Gorangi said, you don't need to have everything on your resume. They look for these certain spikes. For me personally, what ended up being the spikes was obviously academics. So I applied with a CGPA of around 8.75, which was, for us, it was a CGPA till 2.1 since last year exams were postponed, but I believe for you it will be CGPA till 2.2. And the another spike you could say was internships. So I had my PS1 at EY, and I had I had a IT role essentially. But what they see is if you have, let's say, a big brand internship and you have some sort of corporate experience, that is also considered a spike. And usually BCG hires a lot from MBA programs, and over there they also have a certain. This is another, you have no idea exactly how a shortlist happens, but this is another point that they sometimes do look at your 10th and 12th grade marks. So if you have pretty, high marks like 95 plus in both 10th and 12th, because I had mentioned in my resume my 10th and 12th and CGPA. So in general, strong academics is usually is a sign that BCG believes that you can handle pressure and you're doing good at what you like or what you're currently pursuing. So yeah, that was my portfolio.
So coming to my portfolio, it was not academics for sure, because when I had applied, I had a 7.55 GPA, if I'm not wrong. And this was like pre the CGPA inflation and everything. But even then, it was usually like the trend has been it's either been Eco plus CS or 8.5 plus CGPA resumes. But when I talked to a few of my colleagues at BCG and my buddy who was assigned to me, and I asked him like, what do you think was the reason? It was mostly my internships, and I had a lot of internships, and I had a startup which was going on as well as some random wins, which was I had an international publication and volunteering experience at an international firm. So it does not honestly have to be your academics, because till last year I firmly believed that without an 8.5 plus CGPA, you cannot get into firms like this. But if you are someone who has like really strong extracurriculars along with projects in chemical, like I'm from a chemical branch and I had few good projects in chemical as well, which I put in my resume. So for me, it was a plethora of random wins and showing that, I am doing what needs to be done along with handling internships and projects and extracurriculars pretty well. So that was our portfolios. Coming to the interviews, so after your resumes do get shortlisted, the day you have your resume shortlisting, this is how it happened for us. We got a call from the placement unit, and that evening itself, we had a pre-placement talk. So this pre-placement talk is only for the candidates who've gotten shortlisted after your resume round. And over there, like Palak mentioned, they take you through maybe like what's going to be the interviews. So they tell that okay, 20% of it is going to be about you, 70% of it is going to be about the case, and maybe 10% about your resume and what's going on in your life in general. But when we had our interviews, it varies differently. You can totally have an interview which is only dependent on personal questions and your resume, and you can have only an interview which is dependent on your case studies. And in terms of case studies, they'll tell all of this to you in the pre-placement round, in the pre-placement talk as well. But if anyone wants to like just have an idea about it, we'll just touch upon it briefly. So in case study, there are frameworks, there are different types of cases. So you have profitability, you have market acquisition, you have merger and acquisition, you have unconventional cases. So there are a lot of materials on it, which you can which you can like practice, and you pair up with your buddy and you do it. There are guesstimates. So these are basically market sizing and mental math questions. Over there, they're basically looking about how well you can calculate under pressure. There's your resume. So one major tip is like know your story inside out. Like do not lie on your resume. Do not try to fabricate any information, because they do catch on to it and they will ask you questions about it in detail. And personal questions, these are also very important. Not only questions which are like what's your greatest weakness or something you've done, but also questions like why BCG is for you, or why this company is for you, and what do you see achieving from this, or like why after such a branch you have chosen to get into consulting. So things like that. But yeah, I think once you get into your pre-placement talk and once you get assigned a buddy, all of this becomes way more clearer, and more you practice, the better it is. So those are the interview part of it.
So, apart from your case studies, what can you essentially do now? Considering it's almost June already, your CG, your academics, all of that is already locked. Your internships to a certain extent is fixed. So, what can you do now? Firstly, I'd say already start preparing a resume. Get it checked by seniors. This is a long process. It takes time. Everyone's busy. You'll have multiple rounds of this. So start preparing your resume. You don't want that when the company comes. We usually have around only 1 or 2 days to apply after the company opens. You don't want to make it in a hurry, because, as we said, the resume is one of the most important parts of the interview process, of the hiring process. The next is, this is something my buddy told me. And if you have the acumen for consulting, you can work on the cases in 3 weeks. But what you need to work on beforehand, or you need to have, are your soft skills. So start working on your soft skills. You're going to need strong communication, confidence in your interviews, all these sort of skills. Because if you cannot convey your thoughts clearly to the interviewer, it is a clear red flag for them, and they will not proceed with your case, because consulting is a very client oriented job, and they will in your internship put you in front of clients, so they need to have the confidence in you that you are ready for that. And for that, soft skills is something which needs to be, which you have to take time in working on. And lastly, this is just an added bonus, build your business acumen. So, of course, consulting, you have to work with businesses. So, just know basics about what are the different industries, how they work, like the process flows within different industries, and just, I'd say, general knowledge about everything and current news, because sometimes even your cases can reflect that. Like one of our fellow like interns, he had a case of how to help Rahul Gandhi win the elections. They can ask you anything. So work on all these things for now, and of course prepare a strong resume. And yeah, that's basically it from us. So we'll open the
Yeah,
floor to
we'll
questions.
just
Yeah.
maybe the last 10 minutes we can take questions.
Yeah.
I think there are some in the chat. Okay, just one. If you don't have a POR, can you still go for consulting or have a chance?
I mean, yeah, that, like Gaurangi and I explained, our resumes were very different. As I said, they look for spikes. If you, I didn't have a POR on my resume. If you, I don't think Devansh even had a POR last year.
Mhm.
So even if you don't have a POR, it's not a like deal breaker. If you don't
Yeah,
have a POR, you just have to compensate somewhere else. And
exactly.
yeah, they just look for spikes, as we said.
And just have just ensure that like your resume is balanced. Like if you don't have a POR, then there must be that amount of time which would have gone into doing something else. And just make sure you can like show in your resume that you don't have a POR because say you have this much amount of CGPA or you've done these many internships while the semester was going on, etc., etc. Is there a resume format? So for us, they told us we could just apply with the superset resume. That was the only resume which we could apply with, and I think that superset, I'm pretty sure you guys would have had used it by now, since SIP season is going to start, or maybe next month. But it has only two formats in it, one with a picture and one without. So that's only the resumes.
And yeah, the just make sure your resume is one page. I think it's an
Yeah.
unsaid rule now, but they're not going to sit and read a very long resume. So make sure you're crisp, concise in your resume, and one page, and just put all the points that you feel are strong about you.
Yeah. How to prepare for case interviews. So once you get shortlisted for after your resume round, you are assigned a buddy. So a buddy is usually someone who's either in BCG working as, a consultant, an associate. So they've been in the game for an year or so. And you'll also be assigned a junior buddy. So a junior buddy is someone who's worked a little bit lesser. So you can totally like just contact them and ask them to do cases with you. Another way which we practiced personally was that we knew who else got shortlisted within us five, right? So we just were on call with each other at least once or twice a day, and we just practiced cases bouncing off each other. So we were essentially helping each other with the cases as well. And in terms of material, you there's like a plethora of material online. Yeah.
Yeah, and another point to add, what really helped me initially was also, so you have to prepare these cases from these case books. It's there on the repository of PU. So you have SRCC, and I am Ahmedabad, and I am Bangalore. So if you're a beginner, like I was completely new to this, I started with SRCC. They have all the frameworks within it, and you can practice cases. Another thing you could do is just for extra practice. Like you can do a lot of calls with within, let's say you just make a group and do a lot of calls, and with your buddy. For extra practice, you can also just put it on ChatGPT or Gemini
Yeah.
and ask it to act like a case interviewer. And of course, as I said, communication is a strong key, so you won't be able to practice that there, but you'll have a strong sense of different cases and different ideas you can pursue. And another point I wanted to add, so this was told to me by a senior of our college who, after during his MBA, was a placement coordinator over there, that these buddies rounds are tend to also be slightly evaluative beforehand. So as Gaurangi said, we were assigned two buddies. So the senior buddy who works in the firm, although he is really helpful, you can ask him everything when you practice cases, but they also tend to be a little evaluative beforehand, so much so that a consulting firm prepares what they call a hot list before the interviews actually start, that okay, these are the candidates to look out for. So yeah, with your senior buddy, the one who's working in the firm, just make sure when you're practicing cases that's in your mind, because yeah, they can be a little evaluative.
Right, but just another thing, I did not know that they were going to be evaluative. Like, I had no information at all. So I was very candid with my senior buddy, like up to the point where I was like, bro, I don't know if consulting is for me. I've just heard it's so hectic. And I was completely very candid with him. So, if they catch on to the fact that that it's evaluative, maybe that could be like a bad thing. So just like,
yeah, don't
think about it too
like,
much.
it's
Yeah.
not like a short thing. They don't even announce it. Like
Yeah.
my friend told me this, and yeah, that just keep in mind.
Yeah.
So there's
Um,
another question.
yeah.
How important is networking with seniors or alumni for consulting roles? I mean, networking is always important. Not that it can just get you the role.
Yeah.
You can network, get to know more about consulting, get tips, but like especially for BCG, I don't think you can't just like network your way into BCG. They're highly selective that way. So
Yeah, but you can definitely get your resume checked and maybe get an interview or two. Like preparation, I personally did ask, I think around 4 seniors who had some sort of experience in consulting to help me, practice 1 or 2 cases. So that way it's really helpful. You get like insider tips, but otherwise, yeah, not exactly for the role. How and when you realize that you want to go into consulting? Any specific? So personally for me, I was in 180-degree consulting since my first year. And I like I said, I had messaged that senior as well, who was, a consultant in BCG, that, oh, I really want to go into consulting right from my first year. So I was pretty hell-bent on joining consulting, but I didn't really think about it all the time. I did like wander into entrepreneurship and things like product management. My PS1 was in product management and other things as well. It's not something you just pick on day one and you decide to stick with it, which is exactly what I put in that slide. It's very random. And a lot of us, like, since we've met other interns as well, a lot of us are not from any sort of such background or any sort of finance background. And especially the cases are also not always going to be related to finance. My case specifically is about logistics and operations. So there's not a specific thing, but yeah, maybe Palak would like answer it better.
yeah, like for me, how did I know that I want to go to consulting? Honestly, when BCG showed up on campus, I was not in any consulting club. I did not have a minor in finance. I was pretty interested in electronics and IT even to a certain extent. But when BCG showed up, I found it really interesting. Uh, I read more about consulting, and that's when I thought, okay, why not? This is and essentially, why do consulting firms hire engineers? Because we are problem solvers. So if you enjoy solving problems, then I enjoyed the whole case interview process. That's when I realized that, okay, consulting is really interesting and I want to go into it. So if you want, obviously try out, join a lot of clubs on campus. You'll have a much better idea of consulting, better than I did. But yeah, as Gaurangi said, don't pick it and on day one and then just stick to it. Like,
Yeah.
if you have the acumen for consulting, you'll eventually realize it. And if you just enjoy problem solving, then yeah, I'd say you definitely enjoy it.
Were the case interviews more interviewer directed or interview directed? So there are 2 types of case interviews, which I found out when I was researching into it. I think BCG and Bain have more interviewee directed cases where you are the ones, who have to like go about saying that, okay, now I think we could look into this bucket, or now I think we could solve the case XYZ way. In other firms, I'm not sure if any other firm is going to come for this SIP season, but for McKinsey, as far as I've heard, it's more interviewer directed, which means the interviewer guides you about, okay, now let's look into this field, now look into this bucket. But And this honestly also depends on the kind of interviewer you have. So even despite BCG being known for being interviewee directed, if if the person who is taking your interview decides that they don't have enough time to deal with this and they want to like fast run your case, they might just end up solve the case for you and give you just 2 minutes to speak, which has happened with a lot of us. So it's very dependent. I don't think that should like hamper or like change anything about the way you're preparing for your cases.
Yeah, I'd say the same. Because even for me, I'd say my first interview, the interviewer gave me a lot of time to figure out my approach. They just guided me a bit. But my second interviewer, um, I think I don't know if he thought he doesn't have time or I was going the wrong direction. So he kind of essentially fast tracked the case a lot. So it really depends on your interviewer.
What were your answers to why BCG? Again, there's no answer that fits all. Everybody, like all of us, had different answers. For me personally, it was just about the different industries, and something which was there in my resume was also the fact that I had interned in different industries and I had interned as different roles, and I just had a very different approach to it. So I just told that this is me. I am a low-key jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. So this makes sense for me. But I think Palak could also give
Yeah,
like
it
another
was
twist to
something
it.
similar. Like for me, they specifically asked that you have a lot of tech on your resume, so why even apply for BCG? So I went about how I enjoy problem solving, basically what I told you guys. So another question: what backup options did you have in your mind while applying for BCG? I think this varies for everyone. Like Gaurangi and I's backups are very different. My backup was electronics companies and IT companies, but yeah, I think Gaurangi would know better about this. Yeah.
Guys, I did not have a backup. I mean, for chemical, there's only Honeywell and BCG, which comes like which I would say comes. I did not want to sit for IT or anything, and I didn't want to sit for Honeywell either. Like I didn't want to go into chemicals. So low key, like this was my only thing. I did not have any backup for SIP. Otherwise, it would just be like PS2 and then you know just going from there. But yeah, I think backups are something that even we still talk about, me, Palak, and the others. We still think about backups, and yeah. Are there any other consulting companies coming? I think this is something you should ask placement unit and their SIP interns. We wouldn't know that.
Yeah, like yeah, that's totally dependent on them.
Yeah.
So I guess that brings us to the end of the question round as well. If anybody else has any questions, this is your chance.
I would also like to say one thing. Before you do apply to BCG, just be ready to know that these 2 months will be probably the most hectic months you will ever face. They BCG treats you exactly how they would treat an employee. So there's no sort of an intern thing. You're given full autonomy on a module you're thrown directly in front of clients. So just keep that in mind when you're applying because yeah, it's not going to be an easy 2 months. Like we've already had 1 week and we're exhausted already.
Yeah, there's gonna be very little hand holding as well. The, I'll tell you that there's a great support system. There are great people and there's great learning, but it's very steep. You will have to walk on very steep inclines. That's all. Yeah.
Okay, that was really helpful even for myself, and I hope that was helpful for everybody who's joined the meeting. Thank you once again to Gaurangi and Palak for sharing their journeys so openly. All the best to everyone who's preparing for consulting internships. And yeah, I'll hand over to Suryansh and Shreyash, who will take over for the IT segment of the SIP Talks. Thank you once again for coming.
Thank you guys. Yep.
Thank you for inviting us. All the best, guys.
Bye.
Good evening, everyone. We'll be starting the IT part in a while. Now we move on to the very last segment for today's session, the IT part. So, good evening, everyone. Hope your summer breaks are going well. Welcome to the SIP Talks by CT. This is the IT section of the event. I'm Suryansh.
And I'm Shreyash, and we are from CT, and we'll be serving you as your hosts for the night.
We are lucky enough to have seniors who have got their SIPs with top tier companies like Visa, Uber, Siemens, and Arista. This is going to be an insightful session for every one of you who are looking forward to landing an SIP with renowned companies in your upcoming years. We will have some of the best pieces of advice from our very own seniors. First off, a moment of appreciation for them to volunteer their time for this cause and guiding the juniors. Thank you so much.
Hmm. We have Aditya Mene, Visa intern, Swayam Lakhotia, Uber intern, Keshav Kavra, Siemens intern, and Vishesh Agarwal, Arista intern with us. Each of them will be presenting their own journey, provide pieces of advice, and let us know how they went forward with their journey, how they prepared for the interviews, what challenges they faced, and what parts they enjoyed, and how you can also land an SIP with some of the best companies out there providing software and technology roles. To address any queries, we'll have a dedicated Q&A round after all the speakers are done. You may address a particular speaker or any general query you might have.
So, without any further ado, we'll be starting. Our first speaker today is Aditya Mene. He's an intern at Visa. He'll walk you through his journey, share some really valuable insights about the internship process. He'll tell how your resume plays a role in getting your internship and present some better facts when it comes to internship related to software and technology domain. Over to you, Aditya.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Can anyone please confirm?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Great. I'll just start my video and share the screen. Hello. Please confirm if you all can see the PPT.
Yes, we can see the PPTs.
Okay, great. So, good evening, everyone. I am Aditya Mene, currently in Bangalore for my software engineering internship at Visa. I'm sorry, I'm a bit down with cold, so my voice might sound robotic or weird. But yeah, it's been 2 weeks. Good 2 weeks. We have had a great time so far. So let us go over what I'll be talking about today. An overview. So I'll first describe how the visa SIP selection process was from my POV. And then we'll move to the most important things, DSA and CS fundamentals. Next, for interviews, you need to have a good intro prepared and a good resume as well. So we'll go over that. Next, we'll talk about general tips that any senior on campus will give you who has been through this period of SIP selection, and it's an exhausting process. So yeah, and after that, some documents that I feel anyone preparing for ITSIP should have. I'll just display the links. Hopefully, CT shares these slides, and like you can go through those links. Okay. So first, I'll talk about how the process for visa SIP looked from my point of view. Let's get to the online assessment. So there were 4 questions to be solved, and the time constraint was pretty high. I mean, only 70 minutes we had to solve 4 questions. Now, I gave several OAs rubric D, so and I personally found that the visa OA was on an easier side compared to these. So as only 4 questions and only 70 minutes, so it was a game of both speed and accuracy. I'll get to why I'm saying accuracy. Anyone who has given a contest on code forces, I would compare the difficulty of Visa OA to a Div 3 or a Div 4 contest, with the first 2 questions being very easy and the next 2 ones requiring some amount of thought and implementation heavy. But overall, I would always say it was easier compared to other ways. So yes, we had to pass all test cases for all 4 questions to get shortlisted. Those of who you don't know what a wait list means, I'll just briefly explain that. So basically, a company gives as it releases the shortlist, and let's say some of those interns bagged offers somewhere. These processes keep going on parallelly. So people who just couldn't make the criteria are waitlisted, and uh, yeah, I'm not sure about that criteria, but mainly, so there are 7 interns as of now in visa from Bitstoa, and I've talked to everyone. This was a thing. Now let's move to the online interview round. There was only one interview round for the visa process. They were very fancy in naming it. They called it the holistic tech plus behavioral round. So it's nothing. It's just your DSA, CS fundamentals, resume, and some of those behavioral or HR type questions. So yes, they did ask me questions around the PS1 project. I'll get to what sort of questions they were, and how the PS1 experience helped me. Second is, I hope your PS1 has started and is going well. Let's hope you have a light one. Let's see. Then, yeah, questions about usage of AI tools. So I remember distinctly that my interviewer asked, how do you integrate or incorporate AI tools in your daily workflows? Do you use them? Which ones have you used? So this is 1 year ago when the good plans like ChatGPT Go or Gemini Pro, these were starting to get rolled out for students. So for our use cases, the AI tools were like they satisfied our use cases at that time. But yeah, so I mentioned something like uh, I create drafts for whenever I want to write emails. I put my idea and refine it using AI, or anywhere I want help regarding coding, I just use AI tools. So there was time for one DSA question in my interview. This is a GFG link. I'll not visit it right now. You all can go through it later. So the problem was given strings S1 and S2, tell if any one of the strings is a rotation of the other. So I couldn't give how past interns fared in their roles, and yeah, do this in your interviews because this signals interest, curiosity. If you're optimistic about how your interview went, you can really ask. Let's say this goes well, and I join your company. What are the first set of tasks that you'll assign to me as an intern? How do you measure success in that role? There are several questions. Okay, let's move ahead. The elephant of the room, the most important DSA and CS fundamentals. So, yeah, everybody would have told you by now that do DSA, do CP. We have Keshav on the panel today. He's an Algomaniacs body, so she'll really guide you well on CP. So I'll not talk about that. I'll talk about what I did for DSA. So I had started off with Striver Sheet. Honest advice, don't chase completion. If you are able to complete and revise, so there will be several patterns across several data structures. So if you are able to really complete and revise everything thoroughly, okay, great. But in general, I think just don't chase completion. Even I think as of now, I have it 70% complete. You can just go through important questions, have them starred, and look at the concepts. So lead code daily questions was one of the ways I managed to build a streak of solving questions and be consistent with DSA. If you are an early bird, if you can get up on Sunday at 8 a.m., you can attempt the contest. Otherwise, there are I think bi-weekly contests on Saturday evening. If you're a night owl, you can do that. So yeah, GFG is of course one more platform. I found it good for solving basic questions related to any data structure. And later when I started getting shortlisted, so I was shortlisted for D, Shaw, and Visa. So company-wise question banks I found on that website, and it was pretty helpful. So I'll just say try solving, don't directly look at the solution, struggle for 15-20 minutes at least, and then don't go to the solution directly. Look at the hints that the question page provides you. There are one, two, or three hints at times. So you can go through them. If you feel that no, you need to see the solution, sorry, look at their implementation and note down new algorithms that you come across while solving questions. They might be reused in solving other questions that you may come across. For OOPS, I will just say revise slides and do labs. Now, I know labs were done a bit differently. There were probably not many labs conducted for the junior batch, you all. So you can just check out our labs. They should be available on ASCII archives, so you can go through them. That's good for OOP in Java. Now, in some companies like these, or they do ask you OOP in C++. I personally wasn't asked it, but my seniors, when I got shortlisted, my seniors had recommended that I do this because I mean, it's either their expectation or you can say that you do DSA and OOP in the same language. But when you get shortlisted, talk to seniors who have given those interviews or are interning or have offers at these places. They can guide you better on this. I just mentioned this because this was told to me for the DSHO interview. These have some extra concepts related to OP in C++. That's why mainly. Now, these are some playlists. Again, you can go through these. I have linked them, YouTube playlists. So you will provide you these. So check out those resources as and when they come. DBMS revised slides for theories. I was one of the DVSTs. Those of you who have seen me roaming around in the labs. This is another playlist by Love Babbar. Again, it will be given by you in one of those docs, so just look out for that. Apart from that, I think the junior batch was given a website called SQL Bolt, if I'm not wrong. That was, I think, good for writing clean queries and learning how to write queries. You can redo the labs, or there is a set of 50 SQL questions on lead code by the name SQL 50. You can do that as well. So some other type of questions that I encountered across some OAs are like questions on aptitude. JEE Math, you will see a question on probability or permutations and combinations pop up. Puzzles in interviews, I was asked this puzzle, if you would have heard this. If you have 25 horses, you can race them in groups of 5. minimum number of races required to determine for sure who the top three fastest horses are. So they honestly, the interviewers honestly look at your approach on how you solve these. There is deductions involved, there is elimination, case-wise analysis. So if you are able to crack the perfect answers, nothing like it would be great. But they also look at your approach, how you approach these puzzles. English comprehension skills. There are some questions where they'll ask you make this paragraph a legible sequence or some those type of English questions. But of course, the majority of the OS focus on these three, mainly this. So there's one thing for OP and DBMS that I'll tell. I realized this during mock interviews that I was unable to give very crisp definition. There are many concepts, four pillars in OOPS, asset properties in DBMS, and just many more. So I suggest you practice speaking those definitions, crisp, concise definitions out loud, and have examples around those definitions prepared beforehand, because you don't want to really blank out on these questions in the interview. So that's a mistake that I realized I was doing, and that was a feedback from mock interviews. I'll talk about mock interviews later as well. Intro plus resume. So yes, you need a good, strong introduction for interviews. Looking at how the attention spans have dropping, just don't go beyond 1 or 1.5 minutes. That should be good enough. So this was a sample flow that I followed for my intro. Basic, okay, I should have written basic details. Basic details, technical interest. It can be AI ML, it can be web development, it can be networks, it can be very niche resume as well. You can mention your PS1 experience in brief because that's a talking point. Projects that you have worked on, any achievements you have had, like people with good CF ratings can maybe flaunt this, or if you have won a hackathon or any competition, please mention that.